Looked for a fifth wheel hitch that was light and would work well in my 3/4 ton Sierra 2500. The box is 33 inches high, 3 feet wide, and about 14 inches deep. The shipping weight was 49 pounds. It was very easy for the UPS ground driver to drop it off and very easy for me to pick it up and set it here. Ultimate fifth wheel connection aluminum version, part number 3220. Gross trailer weight rating 24,000 pounds. Tongue 4,500 pounds. This is a close-up of inside the box. I've laid the box on its side, and here's some things to note. The way they ship it is they turn the ball upside down. So the ball normally goes up, and this time it's pointed down. And hanging from the ball is the pin box adapter, the Kingpin adapter. This side, where my hand is right now, would encompass or wrap the Kingpin on your fifth wheel, and then this would normally drop down onto this ball when it's flipped up. It'll be clearer if you haven't already seen other videos when I pull it out and show it. So I guess the thing to note here is it's really compact, and the design contributes to a really efficient way of shipping. You put the ball upside down, all the parts are locked. And here's another view related to inside the box. I've pulled it out about halfway so you could get more of a 360. So there you can see where the adapters are. Continuing on with taking a look at the Kingpin adapter. So I'm going to move around, and you can see it from an end. There's the funnel adapter that sits on top. If you have an older Andersen Ultimate, this funnel adapter can be added. So this is it from the bottom side. Trying to show the funnel, that's about as best as I can do. So you can see that adapter encompasses or wraps the Kingpin adapter, and the two bolts that are there to hold it onto the Kingpin, and also that can be replaced with the chain adapter. You take those two bolts out, this funnel adapter slides right in. So if you're an existing Andersen Ultimate and you want this funnel, I believe Andersen has an offer for existing owners where they basically get it for about 2/3 of the retail cost. So it should make it easier. It lets you drop your fifth wheel. You don't have to be exact now. You can be off, well, it looks like a couple of inches. The other question I had, and others may have also, is what is the adjustability of that ball that's at the top of the Andersen Ultimate? So what I've done is I've placed the ball at its highest position, and I laid this yardstick up against it. It's about 19 3/8 from the floor. 19 3/8 from the floor, and that's at its highest position. Okay, and now I've moved it to its lowest position, 16 7/8. Let me just back up and you can see at this position the bottom of the ball tube is sticking just below. I've now moved the ball to the middle position. It looks like about an 18 1/4 inches, 18 to 18 1/4 inches. That's from the floor to the top of the ball. So we go from like 16 7/8 to almost 18 to about 19 3/8. Those are the three adjustments. You cannot see the tail coming out the bottom. You can see the hole, what is the lowest position sticking up. We're now at the highest position, the middle position. So you can't see the tail at the bottom. You can't see the hole at the top. This is the middle position, or the approximately 18 inches ball top to the floor. Okay, now for this part of the demonstration, I've taken the Kingpin adapter and put it onto the Andersen Ultimate in the same position that it would be if you were towing. So the block at the top would be mounted on your Kingpin. You would slide back and drop your fifth wheel on top of the ball that's in the Ultimate. So I've laid it on top of there. There's plenty of clearance. It doesn't hit anything. It turns just fine. Just so you can see that. This is in the lowest position. So that ball, if you can see the tail of the ball at the bottom, that ball is as low as it can go. In my particular case, that was important for me because I have a short bed truck. 2500 HD sits kind of high. I was trying to get my trailer level, so I really wanted the ball for me to go as low as possible. So that's it, mounted at its lowest position. Something else to note is the current model of the Andersen Ultimate has these two triangular plates, one on each side. So on this one, it says right there at the bottom, install with tailgate in this direction. So the tailgate's in that direction to camera right, and basically the Kingpin adapter is sitting out in front of the Kingpin itself. And this is the opposite side, and as you would expect, it says install with tailgate in this direction. Now, perfectly acceptable in the Andersen booklet, it tells you you can do it this way. So now the Kingpin is basically behind, and so it's perfectly acceptable to install it either way. Here's another view of the Kingpin adapter. Some folks would like to know, what does it look like inside the ball cavity? So this is the Kingpin adapter turned upside down. I'm looking through the funnel, so basically this is the part that would drop onto the ball that's at the top of the pyramid that makes up the Andersen Ultimate. So you can see it's kind of a dome shaped in the bottom. That's where the top of the ball rests. You don't grease that, it's just dark in color. I assume that's some kind of coating, but anyway, it's greaseless. And at about the 12 o'clock position, you can see a kind of a bar coming across. Well, that's what the locking lever does. So right now it's in the locked position. The ball would be there. I'm going to try to, for the video, pull it out. There you go. So this would be in the unlock or the out position. So in this position, you would drop down onto the ball, and then when you're there, you would twist, turn, push, lock. And now it would lock onto the ball. Okay, the Andersen Ultimate is now in the bed of the truck. It's centered. The main column is centered right over where it would attach to the bed ball. The purpose of this next couple of shots is to indicate how far it is from the top of that ball to the end of the bed and to the window. Okay, this is the top of the ball to the back of the bed of the truck. So 39 inches, let's call it. Okay, now the end of the tape is at the window, and 43, call it 43 and a quarter. There, I've got it right up on the window. There's a little bit of an angle, and I don't know that it shows that well on the camera, but best I can, I'd call it 43 and a quarter. Okay, time for a little discussion on placement of that Kingpin adapter. As I mentioned before, you can place it like it's showing right now, where the trailer Kingpin is behind the Andersen ball, or in other words, in order, it's truck bed wall, Andersen ball, Kingpin. Or you can rotate it around, sorry for the noise, and install it that way so that the order becomes wall of the truck, Kingpin, and Andersen ball. The difference between those two positions is 8 inches. So in this position, the front of my trailer is 8 inches closer to my truck cab than it is in the other way. And so for shortbreads, usually the instruction is to flip it around backwards so that you gain that 8 inches to help you with more clearance. In my particular case, I was dealing not with just the peculiarities of the positioning of the Andersen hitch, but also my pin box. I have a Wildcat. It came with a Lippert 1621 compatible pin box, and when that pin box would rotate inside the bed of the truck, and so as I made a turn, let's say, and it rotated this way or that way, what would happen is the back of the pin box would swing around, and I was concerned about clearance because I have a tonneau cover. I've got it off now, but you can see the rails added. I was afraid it was going to hit that, and I could make a full 90, but even the slightest angle and I was going to hit this. So I looked online, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but a solution that he had was to purchase the Curt 4-inch ball extension, and that moves the entire Ultimate hitch back 4 inches. So follow me here. I take away 8 inches by reversing it, and then I recover back 4 inches by using the Curt. And I'm going to put the Curt in a minute. You can see how that works. So what that does is I only end up moving forward 4 inches, and that was plenty. I can do a 90-degree turn. The pin box rotates now within the walls of my truck, and I don't hit the walls. I have more clearance. So that's the way I chose to do it, and I will grab the Curt out now and show you some things about that. Okay, this is the Curt ball extension. It's good for 20,000 pounds, trailer 5,000 pounds, tongue weight. Anyway, it's laying on its side. I left it out so I can get up and show you just exactly how it works. So that tube to the right, where you see the 2 holes, that's what's going to drop into the cavity in my bed and lock in. So that black tube sticking in, that's where the normal ball that came with the flip over hitch would go. So that does it, and then that moves my bed ball 4 inches towards the gate. So I have 4 inches towards the gate. Remember, I'm going to reverse the Kingpin adapter and lose 8, so I'm going to net 4. And the main goal of the reversal was not anything to do with the Andersen. It was to get the pin box to fully rotate within the walls, to change the pivot point, if you will, so that it rotates within the walls. Okay, I left the ball at the middle position, and I've placed it. I've placed the Curt extender. It's now in the bed of the truck and secured. If you hadn't noticed, I don't use chains, I use cables. They work just fine. You can see the turnbuckles. I've zoomed in now, and you can see the bottom of the tube that sits over the bed ball. So basically, when I lift the entire hitch, I will drop it, so I'll pull out that pin right there, and the tube would sit over the ball. Then the pin goes back in and locks it to the ball, and that's the normal way that it installs. Okay, the hitch is now moved, and the center tube is dropped on top of the ball. You can see the cotter pin, or the security pin, still loose. It remains loose. You put the pin in. How do you tighten that to the bed ball? Very simply. We're going to tighten this, and that will raise that pin, that lower pin right there. It's going to raise it up until it tightens it against the ball. So that will tighten that inner tube against the ball, and then these two get tightened, and that's what secures that inner square tube to the entire hitch. So it's basically 3 bolts, 1, 2, 3. You can see a better explanation of this in the Andersen videos. They did a much better job, but that's how easy it is to take in and take out. Now, I carry a cheap old torque wrench with me. Got it at Harbor Freight. I think it was 20 bucks. I just keep it in the bed. 50 pounds of torque here, 50 here, 50 here. I put it in the truck. I tighten it up according to spec. I go get my trailer. I drive it off the lot. Maybe a few extra feet. I pull over. I check it again to make sure those bolts are tight and everything is fine. So a couple of things that might make my implementation a little bit different than others. If you haven't noticed, I don't have a bed liner. I just have the good old GM dealer's rubber mat. It's really thick. It's about an inch thick. It's nice, heavy. To me, it looks like it's made out of old tires, but it's very thick. And when I tighten the Andersen hitch down, I'm tightening it on top of that rubber. Well, one issue I have to deal with is I'm now changing how deep it is for that tube, and so it could be that as I tighten that top bolt to pull the tube up, I get to a point where I can't go any higher, and my locking pin sticks out. So, and I actually have this issue. So there's the locking pin. So see, I'm loosening it, and it's dropping. I tighten it and it's rising, and you can keep tightening, but then I get to a point where it's still not tight enough, and yet the pin is already hitting that. So Andersen has a great solution for that. What you're looking at are two versions of that lower pin. The standard pin is the one on top. It's long, it has a knuckle on one end, and the locking pin goes in on the other end, and that's what holds it in there while you're doing everything else. The one below it is what Andersen refers to as a sheared pin. The bottom and the top of that pin has been sheared off. There's no holes in it, it's just a shorter pin. And I'll show you why that works perfect for my situation. Here you can see I've taken the sheared pin and inserted it in the lower locking hole. It's not pushed in all the way yet. I'm going to do that right now. Now, it's hard to tell, but the end of that pin is now flush with the hole. And if I take you around to the back, trust me, it looks exactly the same. It's flush to the hole. What that's going to allow to happen is as I tighten the upper tube, just the top middle screw, that sheared pin now goes all the way inside that tube, so it can't come out. The locking pin's no longer needed, and I'm tightening that pin against the Curt ball, which is what's supposed to happen. And let's leave that there. And so now, see, I can't lift it. It's tight against the bed, just as it would be in the normal way without this rubber mat, without the Curt, using the regular pin. Since I now can pull the tube in there, I don't need anything. This outer tube keeps it secure, it can't come out, and we're good to go. Okay, everything's in. All the bolts are tightened. The Kingpin adapter is sitting on the floor. My trailer is actually a storage lot, and so tomorrow I'll head over there and I'll take some more video of the Kingpin adapter installed. And the purpose of this shot is just to show you where it lines up in relation to the axle. So that's the middle of the wheel well. I lined it up as best I could, so you can see that bolt, that's exactly over the Curt ball, and then the Andersen ball is to the left of that. So that's where center is. The design of the pyramid with the four structures evenly distributes. If you look at the video, it kind of shows it. It almost evenly distributes that weight right over that axle. Okay, it's a bright sunny day here in Dallas. I'm going to mount the Kingpin adapter now to the Kingpin. In the back, you can see there's two bolts are still in the Kingpin adapter. I'm going to remove those, and I'm going to insert the replacement bolts, which are laying right there in front of it. And those will replace the bolts, and that's where my chain hooks will attach. Okay, this is my pin box before I attach the Kingpin adapter. You can see the Kingpin itself. It's centered right there at the bottom of the hook. This is this particular one is a MORryde 621 compatible. So it's not the MORryde that has the cushion or the movable plate. It's just a standard straight pin box. Okay, I've put the Kingpin adapter up there and I've swapped out the bolts for the looped ones. Let me just show you both sides. Okay. Only thing really to be aware of on the instructions for the loops is they don't want this loop to be next to here. So that's kind of what drives. No, this is the normal way that most Andersen folks have their Kingpin adapter attached. So the Kingpin is here and the ball would drop here. The locking cable would come out this side, and then you would mount it up on the roof. So that's the normal way. I'm going to do it different. Okay, everything's mounted now. You can see that I prefer to reverse it. It's approved in the manual. When you read the manual, it tells you can do this. So what I've done is I put the funnel adapter where the Andersen ball goes in, behind the Kingpin. The Kingpin ball is right here and secured. So I swapped out the bolts for the looped ones, and this is where the chains would attach after you're hooked up. Swap that out. Tighten the bolts. Once that's tightened, I measured the back from here to the edge to get it centered. So measuring off front and back, it's 4 1/4 inches for me on each side. So it's perfectly centered. Once that was done, I tightened the 4 hex nuts. And they're located, there's one here, then there's a hole in the funnel plate so you can get to the back too. So I kind of tightened them in a star pattern and got those all tightened. And once they're tightened, this won't move. And this is the same type of Kingpin adapter I used on my other one, so I'm comfortable. I'll check it after I've towed a while to make sure that none of these are loose. And then the last thing I did was the way I mounted. Because I mounted on the opposite side or backwards, the cable now comes out on this side instead of the others. So I just used a little C-ring adapter right here to hold, free float that cable, so it's good. Then over here there's a bracket that comes with already mounted on here. I just used one of the screw holes and attached it with a bolt to one of the screw holes on the front of the Kingpin, and so it's secure. And so right now that the Kingpin adapter, if I had a ball in there, it would be in the locked position. To unlock it, you twist, pull. Now it's in the unlock position. If you remember in the previous part of the video where that bar came through on the inside, right now the bar is out. So you'd leave it out, back up the truck, lower down onto the ball, push this in, turn and lock, and now we're secure and ready to tow.